Welcome to War Games on Toast, all of you lovely people. I am once again back talking about the latest edition of Warcry. Wait. Welcome to War Games on Toast, all of you lovely people. I am once again back talking about Warcry, but today I am not just talking, I am playing. This is a battle report on Tabletop Simulator. My Vulkyn Flameseekers against the dastardly slaves to darkness, controlled by subscriber and fan of the channel, Nikko. But before we get into the battle report, please consider leaving a like, commenting and subscribing. It really helps the channel out and helps me fight against that dastardly YouTube algorithmic demon. But if you want to help in a more tangible way, please consider subscribing to my Patreon or YouTube members and help me fund future endeavours in the Warcry universe. And special thanks goes to Brioche, who is a bona fide algorithmic demon slayer and who is helping bankroll these videos for your viewing pleasure. But with all that out of the way, let's get on with the show. So for the Vulkyn Flameseekers in my dagger, I have Neve Black Talon and 2 Scale Breakers with Bokaz. In my shield, I have a Rune Father with Grey Axe and a Droth Blood Thane, and in my hammer I have a Droth Master and a Scale Breaker with Bokaz. Just to point out, this game came before the slight points adjustments that the Flameseekers received, so we are operating with the old point system, which makes this exactly 1000 points, as opposed to 985, which it would be nowadays. This list really is all about that combination of Droth Master and Neve Black Talon. Neve Black Talon has a movement of 7 and an awful lot of attacks. The Droth Master being able to whip her to move 14 inches for free on a triple is outstanding. And I really want to experiment with that and just see if Neve Black Talon, despite her incredible price, could actually work in a viable list for the Flameseekers. And whilst I don't think she quite proved her worth in this game, as we'll soon find out, I think there's a lot of play involved here, and with the right blessings at the right time, Neve Black Talon could be a very powerful force to help the Vulkyn Flameseekers. So Nikko is running the Slaves to Darkness, and in his dagger he has an Exalted Champion and a Chaos Chosen. In his shield he brought a Mind Stealer Spheranx and Crimson Kira, and in his hammer, he chose to take 2 Chaos Chosen. Overall, this list comes to 1000 points and has a lot of bulk and a lot of kill potential. Everything here, bar Crimson Kira, has 20 wounds at toughness 5 as a bare minimum and swings in at strength 5 with a 2-4 damage profile. These guys can hit very hard, they can take a lot of punishment, and because they are toughness 5, it really makes it difficult for Neve Black Talon to get her damage landing because she's only hitting on 4s instead of the preferred 3. So we'll see how that all pans out in this game, and let's get on with the deployments. So please forgive the slight wonk on this first screenshot of the board. No idea what happened, but apparently the saved camera was terrible, and I did fix that for all future top-down views. As you can see, we have we're playing ley lines, which means there are 5 objectives, and only the middle is active. The board is very open. There is a lot of platforms, as you can see, and ladders and bridges of terrain in the center, and none of it really gets in the way. It's all very high up, so people can just walk under them. Even the Spheranx can quite comfortably fit underneath one of those bridges, so it doesn't really come into play in this game. It's just kind of there, and because all the objectives are on the ground and away from actual terrain, there's very little reason to ever interact with it, which is always a shame in Warcry, but this is what we rolled, and that is what we have. There is some scatter terrain around the edges near the deployments, and that does kind of get in the way a little bit later on, but for the most part, the terrain does not get in the way all that much. Important to note, our deployments are fairly straightforward. Our daggers are in the top and the bottom of the map, and our hammers on the left and on the right. And then on turn 2, in those tiny corner deployments, our reinforcements come on, and that should help swing the tide of the battle just a little bit. Now, when it comes to ley lines, the mission is fairly straightforward. There are 5 objectives, and the middle is active and the other 4 are dormant. The player, who does not have initiative on any given turn, gets to choose to activate any of the other 4 objectives to make them active and point scoreable. For every objective you hold, you score 1 point, and the player with the most points at the end of the game wins. Simple as that. And this is where Nikko deploys his Exalted Champion and Chaos Chosen for his dagger deployment, very aggressively placed to take objectives early. I then counteract by putting my Neve Black Talon, represented by a Calthea Zandaya model, in my dagger, and these guys are getting placed quite aggressively too. I want Neve to get whipped and sent wherever she has to go early on, and those dwarves to hopefully take an objective early if I get the opportunity. He then places his other 2 Chaos Chosen, and these go on his hammer, and then that just concludes his deployment for turn 1. I then deploy in turn with my hammer, placing my Drothmaster and a Scalebreaker. Again, I want these guys to sort of like threaten the nearby objectives, but importantly, I don't want them getting anywhere near his turn 2 deployments. These guys can't handle his sphere ranks. So my plan here is very simple. I want to move my Scalebreaker, Bokaz, and Neve towards the bottom left-hand objective to take control for when that becomes active, and I want to take my Drothmaster and his Scalebreaker buddy up towards the top right to get as far away as possible from his round 2 shield deployment. This lets me hopefully take control of 2 objectives before they become active and give me a bit more control over the board. So for the initiative, I get a triple and a double and a single, and he gets 2 doubles and 2 singles. We both decide to bank here, which gives him the initiative and lets me decide which objective gets active first. And in this scenario, I absolutely select the bottom left, as this is an objective I can get 3 models on, guaranteeing control early on. So I activate my Scalebreaker Bokaz, and he just double moves up onto this objective. I don't want to get too close. I want to be in a place where he can't easily get into engagement range or attack, so he's going there. And then he moves his first Chaos Chosen up, and he does the same thing, and it's kind of just toe pokes. He wants to get close to the other objective to maybe support later on. I then follow up by moving another Scalebreaker, double moving into range to attack with my 2-inch range next turn, but not close enough to be attacked in engagement range with his 1-inch attack. He then moves up his other Chaos Chosen and gets very aggressively placed into engagement range, just on that tip there, so next turn we are going to be swinging quite aggressively. I then use Creed of Flame to move Neve Black Talon 14 inches to get into engagement range with this activated Chosen, which should allow me to swing and do some serious damage with no chance of retaliation, and that's just the power of the Drothmaster at work there. And of course, as it is actually the Drothmaster's turn, he then double moves up 6 inches on the complete other side of the board to get into range of this objective. Now, it's not active, but I can still take control of it before it becomes active, which is always a good thing. He then uses Rush and double moves up this Chosen to take control of this objective to more or less guarantee 1 point. I then go with Neve Black Talon. She uses Onslaught and attacks 14 times, hitting on 4s. And despite the sheer weight of dice, I only do 18 damage, which isn't enough to kill the Chosen. He then moves his Exalted Champion up the board here and goes into engagement range with the Drothmaster, looking to take him out early next turn. I respond by moving my Scalebreaker just into range to attack this turn with 3 attacks, and with 3 attacks on 5s, I deal 6 damage, which isn't too bad. And that's the end of Battle Round 1. Very, very quick. Very, very unbloody. Just a lot of damage, but no actual deaths. He takes control of that central objective with his Chaos Chosen, but because I have 3 on the bottom left, I take control of that one, leaving us at 1 point to 1. Overall, I think this Battle Round went very well in my favour. I'm in a very strong position to take out his Chosen on this bottom corner here, and then move on to potentially sweep him into the middle and just cause havoc. He does have a much faster turn 2 shield deployment with the Mindstealer Sphere Ranks and Crimson Kira, but depending on how the initiative goes, I could take control of key objectives and just force him out of points. But let's find out how all this pans out in round 2. So for initiative, I get 3 doubles and a second wild dice to spend. And my opponent gets a double and 4 singles, once again securing initiative, but also allowing me to pick the next objective, which I am all for. He makes a double and a second double, so double 6 and a double 4. I make a triple 6 and then choose to bank. He deploys first and puts his Crimson Kira and his Mind Stealer Spheranx in this bottom corner. The Spheranx is ginormous, so it doesn't quite fit in this deployment zone, which means we have to do the very unused rule where if you can't fit, you just have to fit as best as you can. So he is sticking out just a little bit, but that's just how it has to be. This guy is way too big. I then place my Runefather, my Flame Daddy, and his Thane Escort in my side here, and they're just looking to run up and take control of the nearby objective. Which, spoiler, that objective is active for my active objective on turn 2, which means I have a lot of board control now. Going second in every round so far means I get to control where we fight. And as fast as his guys are, they are not fast enough to engage and threaten this top left-hand objective, which means that is functionally mine, and there is very little he can do about it, giving me a lot of power going into the top of turn 2. And his Chaos Chosen goes first and takes a sneaky swing at Neve Blacktalon before he dies, and he does no damage. I should really counter it here, but I chose not to, which was very silly. And that is because his second attack comes in and lands a whopping 8 damage. So yeah, greed definitely got a bit of me here. I just didn't want to burn action, and I really should have, just to ensure the kill of that Chosen through counterattacks. I then retaliate with my nearby Scalebreaker, taking his attacks into the Chaos Chosen who's injured. Now, I make a mistake here. I choose to not be very smart, basically. I got very greedy here, and I chose not to guarantee the kill by burning an Ignite weapon. I thought with 6 attacks, I would be able to hit him at least once, and that would kill the Chosen, and I wouldn't need to burn any dice. And we will soon see how that turned out. So on that first swing, hitting on 5s with no Ignite weapon, I swing in, and oh, that is 0 damage. Whoops, if that was Ignite weapon, he would be dead. I then choose to not do it again, and oh no, that is another 0 damage, and again, with the Ignite weapon, he would have been very much dead. So greed got the better of me, and here comes the Spheranx, which comes and bites me even harder in the arse for my greed, because again, Neve Blacktalon should have been out of there. She should have killed and then moved away. Instead, I just didn't. I didn't counter, and I didn't kill the Chosen with that because it's all just bad play so far. So this Spheranx moves up, engages a Scalebreaker, which is not good for me, and then does exactly what Spheranxes do, and that is throw a net and gets to 3+ and nets Neve, so she can't use her 14 inches of free movement every turn. She's locked down. I decide now to go with my Scalebreaker over here and try and get some things. I use Ignite Weapon, and I land an amazing 12 damage on the Exalted Champion with the first swing, and I ain't stopping there. I swing again and land another 10, which kills the Exalted Champion, which is great. This secures this top corner, and there's very little that my opponent can do to reclaim this. That's a massive loss on his half. He then moves up his Chosen now to take out my activated Scalebreaker, try to do a bit of damage, maybe take him out entirely. His first lot of swings come in and does 4 damage, but that's the end of his turn since he did move. I then activate Neve Blacktalon, and then she takes a cheeky swing at this injured Chosen, finally looking to actually kill it. And she does, but only with 6 damage, which isn't great. So that Chosen goes down, and then she fires her 10-inch bow to try and do a bit of chip damage, and deals just the 1 damage on that Chaos Chosen, which is fine. Crimson Kira runs up and just secures this objective for future turns. It's not active, she won't score any points, but it does turn that objective to his in the background, which is always good to do. I then move my Runefather up to take this objective, and then he moves his Chaos Chosen up, and this is great for me. He moves his Chosen up to leave the objective, not knowing I could take it with some sneaky plays to try and finish off this Scalebreaker. So he swings in with 4 attacks because of Onslaught, and only does 2 damage, which is great because he's left the objective, didn't get much for it, and now my Droth Master goes. He moves up. He secures his objective, and then he uses Creed of Flame to move the Thane 6 inches for free, And this is where the shenanigans start. I then activate the Thane on my next turn, and then you better believe he uses Blazing Impetus to move an additional 9 and take this objective from under my opponent's nose. The Scalebreaker goes next, and he swings at the Spheranx, and with his 6 attacks, he lands a whopping 8 damage, which is very, very nice. At the end of turn 2, the game has took a huge swing in my favour. I hold all 3 objectives now, and this is mostly because of the Thane doing some sneaky Drothmaster plays, and of course having the initiative advantage to be able to take and select which objectives are active. Going into round 3, the bottom left objective is starting to look a little bit iffy. One of my Scalebreakers is in combat with a Mindsealer Spheranx, which isn't great, and another one is at half wounds, surrounded by Chosen. Sure, I have Neve, but if I don't go first, Neve might just get netted, and that is really bad for me. I don't want Neve being locked down for a second turn. So she really needs to get in there and either kill some Chosen or go after the Spheranx, and neither are guaranteed kills because they have toughness 5, and Neve is just a little bit on the weak side to really reliably swing up at things that strong. So for initiative, I roll off and I get a double and 4 singles, which I decide to make a double 6 and a triple 2 in the end to give me as much trickery as possible with Ignite and with Creed of Flame. And with his single dice, he decides to turn this into a double 6, giving him 3 doubles. But that means I get initiative, and he chooses the objective that activates, and he picks the bottom right, which makes sense. This is already his because of Crimson Kira being there last turn, so he's definitely secured some points, and that's very difficult for me to get there without using Creed of Flame. And even then, I can't just rely on having one guy there. I need to have 2 models there, and it's very unlikely I can do that. So that's definitely a point for him. So it really boils down now to which other points can he take back. Knowing he has a double 6 and therefore can just net my Neve, I can't let that happen. So I move Neve to twice with Creed of Flame from the Drothmaster, and she just zips around the back. This ensures, because of the 2 Scalebreakers and Neve, that Spheranx cannot escape at all. It's stuck there now. It can't disengage. And then, of course, the Drothmaster, since it's his turn, he moves up 6 inches to put extra bodies on this middle objective to try and ensure its control for future turns. He then attacks in with his Chaos Chosen, and I use Runic Flare. It is not enough. Even reducing the crits to hits, the dwarf dies because he takes 6 damage, which ain't great for him. So that more or less takes control of that point for him. So he moves his Chaos Chosen back to start to threaten this middle objective, which is a very good play. His Spheranx now gets attacked by Neve Blacktalon. I attack 7 times and only do 6 damage, which is nowhere near enough. I try again and only do 4. 10 damage from Neve is abysmally low, and that is just not good. Neve is in a really bad spot now. She's not helping objectives, and she didn't kill her mark. Then this Chaos Chosen moves up, swings at this little dwarf, and he takes 10 damage. That dwarf's on 2 wounds and next to his Spheranx, so I disengage, and that ensures he survives for 1 more turn. He then throws a cheeky axe at this Chosen, and with only 2 dice, he throws his 2 axes, and yeah, he doesn't do much. He just does a lowly 1 damage. The Spheranx goes next and rolls her 8 attacks against Neve, hitting on 4s. This shouldn't do all that much, unless they roll like that and does 21 damage, killing Neve outright, which is a devastating blow to this list. Neve is my only really mobile option, so yeah, she's out now and that is not great. I move my Runefather up to sort of like contest things next turn, and then he moves Crimson Kira up here to wrestle control of this objective from me, which makes perfect sense. I then move the Scalebreaker down for next turn to contest that objective and maybe take it back. And that is that. And then the Thane moves up and takes a cheeky swing at this Chaos Chosen with 5 attacks hitting on 5s. He does a respectable 6 damage, taking that guy down a little bit. Now, at the bottom of round 3, it's now 2-2. With Neve being taken out, this is a really bad spot for me. I can't effectively kill things now because Neve was my primary source of death. So what I need to do now is focus on getting cheap and easy objectives. This means taking the bottom right objective using my skill breaker and then cleverly using my Rune Father to tie up and engage and put extra bodies on that bottom left. Ideally, I won't have the initiative, which means I can select the top right to become active, and that secures me an extra point with very little he can do to stop that. So that's the ideal scenario, and we will see what happens in Battle Round 4. For initiative, I get a double, a triple, and a single, and I have 1 wild dice to spend, and my opponent gets a double and 4 singles. He makes a triple, and then I make a second triple instead of a sneaky quad, which I was considering at first. And since I don't have the initiative for turn 4, I select the top right objective to become active, and since that was already mine, it flips to my control immediately, giving me a strong position at the top of turn 4. So of course he goes first, and he moves his Mindstealer Spheranx to take control, or at least contest, both of these objectives because the Spheranx has a base that's big enough to straddle both. Very clever move. I then use Berserk Rampage on my Thane, and I do a fairly substantial 8 damage for free before going on to attack with my Thane and his 5 attacks. And he rolls very well, and that's 10 more damage, and that is enough to kill off that Chaos Chosen and more or less secure this central objective for the rest of the game. He then goes with his Chosen, and he just moves up and he takes a swing at my injured Scalebreaker. And yeah, this guy is not long for the world, and with 3 attacks, he gets to 4 damage, and he kills him twice over, removing the Thane from the game. I then move my Scalebreaker down here, and then go to engage his Mindstealer Spheranx, to see if I can do any sneaky Creed of Flame shenanigans later on. I don't think I'll do much, but we'll see what happens. He then moves Crimson Kira up to engage my Thane, and uses her unique ability Command to increase her damage. And with 5 attacks, he does 4 damage, which is nowhere near enough to kill Thane, who has 20 wounds, but it does a bit of damage there. And we decide to call it here. The game was more or less over once I had killed his Chosen, and this nets me an extra 3 points, leaving the game at 5 points to 9. This was a very cool game, but Ley Lines is very imbalanced. What happens is, it makes having the initiative, which is usually a very powerful tool, a disadvantage. So I only went first in 1 round this game, which meant I controlled the pace and the flow of the game, and I was able to pick objectives that helped me and really boned my opponent, and that feels bad. Ley Lines is one of the only matched play objective missions in the core book, and is dreadful for this. It's always a feel bad mission, and my opponent did very well. After turn 2, me having all 3 objectives, that was a very bad spot for him to be in, but being able to claw that back and get as many points as he did is a testament to his excellent play and command of his Chaos Chosen, who are very tough. Him taking out Neve with telepathic threatening on turn 2, then killing Neve on turn 3, really hampered a massive chunk of my list. Neve Blacktalon is 285 points, and she did next to nothing. She didn't kill a Chaos Chosen, and then she didn't kill a Spheranx, and then she died. So she did very, very little, and I think there's definitely play for Neve in this list, but she definitely needs to have a pool of blessings to pick from, and this means she absolutely needs to have access to at least 20 points, and the reason for that is you want to have that +1 strength blessing on her if you're against a majority toughness 5 warband. You can't have Neve running around hitting on 4s. That is a recipe for failure. You need to be hitting with advantage, and yeah, +1 strength is a must, and that just does not fit in this list. This list will need some rejigging to get that to work, but I will definitely be revisiting Neve in the future and seeing if I can get it to work, because her combination with the Drothmaster is just way too powerful. It is so good. Having 14 inches of free movement per turn, not to mention Creed of Flame being able to give bonus attacks as well, that's really powerful. Neve can move 14, then attack 12 times. Neve could move 14, then be whipped a second time, and then attack, giving her like 18 attacks, or whipped and then rampage for 18 attacks, or whipped and then onslaught for 14 attacks. The amount of damage she can potentially do is staggering, and I would love to try her again with the Flameseekers. I think there is some real play to be had here. And that is the end of this video and this battle report. Special thanks to Nikko for participating. And if you want to get involved, then join the Warcry Discord, link in the description below, and hit me up. I am always happy to play anybody, so get in touch and we will play. And if you want to be on the channel and actually be part of the battle reports themselves, that's fine. If you just want to be a one-on-one with no recording obligation, that is, of course, fine as well. But until next time, lads, ladies, and everybody in between and beyond, I will see you in the next video. Ta-ra. Beautiful. Beautiful.